there have been so many attacks about the election integrity in Pennsylvania, and I know that you're someone who prides yourself on being able to be an impartial observer of all the facts.
Yes.
You've been really looking at this thing, and I get the sense that in central Pennsylvania there is like a little bit of distrust maybe of what happens in big cities and Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. You've been able to kind of critically take a look at this over the last 2 weeks or so. Have you discovered anything? What have you seen?
Yeah, we've discovered no widespread election fraud or voting fraud, the kind that's been described in the tweets and the statements coming from others. And I will just tell you, what we really did see was a smooth and safe election. And if you don't want to take my word for it, take a look at all the national security leaders in this country who announced yesterday that we had a secure and safe election. So I have not seen any evidence of any fraud here in Pennsylvania. And I've not seen any evidence of any widespread election fraud here in Pennsylvania. And I've not seen nationally, based on what I've seen from the experts, we've not seen any evidence of that across the country either.
A lot of what's happening now is litigation. I think that you've weighed in every single time you've been asked about one, or your staff has, and there have been so many.
Right.
There's been a lot, whether it be in common pleas or Commonwealth or the Supreme Court or federal court. Have you seen any piece of litigation in your mind that is really going to sway the election from where we currently are?
Look, Ryan, first off, we've won every piece of litigation that's come forth. All of the attempts to stop the count have failed. All of the attempts to exclude, some meaningful number of ballots have failed. And the will of the people of Pennsylvania will be reflected in the ultimate outcome when this election is certified shortly by the Secretary of State.
Sometimes I was trying to explain this to somebody, that what's right isn't always what's fair. And I think that from my conversations with Secretary of State Kathy Boockvar is that she wanted to do things right. She wanted to make sure that everyone who legally wanted to cast a ballot had every opportunity to do that. But what we're finding out is sometimes guidance may have not been taken a certain way by one county, or one county really, really wanted to strictly stick with the election law as they interpreted it. And I think that may have led to some issues with little things like curing ballots or provisional ballots. Have you, or would you look at that just to make sure moving forward, maybe it doesn't impact the result of this, but just make sure moving forward that there is a better understanding of maybe, say, what is election law and what is guidance and how that kind of plays out?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to get into the Secretary's lane in terms of specific guidance. I think, she can speak for herself on the guidance that she's issued. I do think it will be important in the months to come, when this election is behind us, the winners have all been certified, for everyone that has a stake in this process, lawmakers, the governor, the Secretary of State, my office, the counties and others, to get together and say, what could we have done better? How could we have made this process work more quickly and more smoothly? What are other states doing that's more effective than what we're doing in terms of, the quickness of the counting process, for example? And so I think those are all important questions that we're going to need to get to, over the course of the coming months. And I look forward to participating in those discussions.
So you're going to pivot real quick here. I mean, I know you're trying to fight off all these election attacks, but I've even talked with your staff about COVID-19 and once again being a watchdog for Pennsylvanians. How laser focused are you on making sure that folks out there aren't trying to take advantage of each other, or businesses aren't trying to take advantage of Pennsylvanians? That's really going to be your next big task here.
Well, Ron, I think, we in the Attorney General's office can walk and chew gum at the same time. So we do a lot of different things. And while you may see me out front talking about election protection, it doesn't mean that, hundreds of other things aren't going on. And one of the major things that we are working on is to protect consumers during this COVID-19 crisis. We're seeing an uptick in price gouging complaints and scams. And so we're very vigilant about that. Since COVID started back in March, we've actually been able to return more than $2 million back to Pennsylvania taxpayers who had been scammed, or who have been price gouged. That's money not that comes back to my office or to the Commonwealth. That's money that goes back into the pockets of Pennsylvanians. And so we're going to continue to do that kind of work and do everything in our power to keep people safe.
Yeah, I mean, and thinking about COVID-19 too, I mean, just as a Pennsylvanian, when you see what it feels like we're going through and about to go through with, the cases up around 4,000 or 5,000 as Attorney General, where do your wheels start turning? What are you thinking about in terms of how your office can assist and help?
Well, look, we're very mindful of the fact that the governor and the Secretary of Health play the leading role here in terms of deciding what orders need to come down. That's in their lane, not ours. And there are legal questions on that sometimes that we have to engage in. But mostly what we are dealing with is trying to protect consumers, keep people safe during these challenging times.
Yeah, I mean, there was a whole thing with enforcement during lockdowns, and I think the Secretary of Health has been pretty clear that that's something that they don't want to have to do. If it gets to a situation where individual districts or counties are working through things and they have restrictions in place, is your office there to support them? Should there be something that's just visibly really wrong and puts people at danger?
We are there to support, certainly, and to provide legal guidance where appropriate. We are not the enforcement agency. So if there is an order in effect in Lancaster County, local or state police are required to enforce those orders, not the Office of Attorney General. And it really depends on what the order is and the manner in which it came about. But all of the enforcement of those types of orders are left either to local authorities or, in the absence of local authorities, the Pennsylvania State Police.
Just last question, just talk about your dedication to fighting for Pennsylvanians, making sure every vote counts, making sure that Pennsylvanians feel like they have a good representative in the Attorney General's office as you begin your second term.
Look, I tell people all the time, I'm the people's lawyer. I'm the one guy everybody can count on to protect their interests and their rights, whether it is making sure that their vote is cast and counted, or making sure that they are protected from COVID or gun violence or the opioid crisis. That's the work that we do day in and day out. Hold people accountable who are undermining your rights or making your life more difficult or violating the law, and making sure that the people of Pennsylvania are always first. That's how we do it in the Office of Attorney General. And I'm proud that I now have 4 more years to continue that work as your Attorney General.